I felt like I should have made this video, and I just kind of felt compelled to do it for a while. I didn't know if I was going to, uh, but here I am. So I'm probably titling this something like "I'm leaving," right? And what does that mean? Well, it means I'm leaving for the Army. And the reason why I felt compelled to make this was, I'd been on this channel for, I don't even know how long, making videos. I don't know, at least, 6-7 years, and it never really picked up steam. And I know the reasons why. If you look at my backdrop, it's very hideous. it's a hideous backdrop. There's no good lighting in here, and there's no edits. It's just me just making videos, just talking. And I'm like, if I pick up steam just doing this, just talking, then that'll be great, because I don't want to doctor some version of myself and who I am in order to, gain some notoriety and success from YouTube. Like, I don't want to completely, have to basically start tap dancing and I gotta act this way and carry myself this way when I'm on camera. I'm like, dude, if I'm not good enough to just be myself and say what I say, think what I think, do whatever I do on camera, then okay, so be it. And I started making videos just because I wanted to genuinely express whatever I was thinking, and I guess in parts at certain times vent. I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to, and even now I don't really. It's okay now, I'm 27, but when you're 18, 17, 19 years old, and you got frustrations in your family and you don't feel like you can turn to anyone to talk about anything, you turn to the next best thing that you have. And back then it used to be you'd write in a diary and you just vent out in the diary. And well, now we have YouTube, and we have, I know I use Snapchat a lot, or maybe Instagram stories, and I just go and I talk and I'd say shit. I tell these stories. Before that, I would tell the stories to my friends in class, and they would always find them funny. Black people, they find your misfortune very funny because they go through a lot of misfortune. So we just find the humor in everything, right? As we get older, it stops being as funny. But when we were younger, everything was funny. I know a friend, I ain't gonna say exactly what, but this one girl revealed something that was actually kind of messed up. And they found the humor in it because the way that she said it, I guess, and they were laughing, but it was actually it's actually a pretty messed up thing, right? And I decided to use this channel for that. And I didn't know if I was going to get anyone listening. I didn't know if I was going to get anyone to watch. Eventually I did. I had a few people that watched along the way. I had someone that, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, but they added me on Instagram, and then they wanted me to start making videos in my black tank tops. And like they clearly liked me, and I had that, and I appreciate that viewer, even though it was a little strange to deal with at that time. I have my boy George. We've had disagreements on videos going back and forth at points in time, and everyone else. I can't remember everyone's names, but I do know that you guys, I do remember you guys and commenting on my videos. Now, if you notice, I took down all of my videos. That's because I am joining the Army, and the job that I have actually requires TS. That's top security clearance. And I said a lot of shit back in the day, and when I was younger, like 18, and I can't remember everything I said on video, so I just took it all down, because I don't want to possibly take something down that they might take a certain way, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, we can't have you work for us because you said this when you were 18 years old. I've heard stories of people, like, they said, oh yeah, when I was 9, I stole something, and they're like, oh yeah, no, you can't get your TS. Nope. So I don't even want to risk I said something really stupid and then I ruined my life, because this TS, this job, that could really help me, right? Because the way my plans are shaken out, I want to be able to leverage that TS to be able to get some good pay whenever I do get out. And I don't, but I can't do that if if I'm saying something stupid on video when I'm 19, 20 years old, and I'm like, damn, I said that. No. Yeah. So I took all my videos down. But I mean, I do have some thoughts, some grievances. I'm just reflecting on a lot of things, and I'm kind of I'm realizing I'm leaving all this behind. I'm leaving where I grew up behind. I'm leaving. I can't even really call them family, man. But I'm leaving my blood relatives behind. I'm leaving this house that I spent the second half of my childhood, primarily my teenage years, actually, behind. Like, I'm leaving all of this behind. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, well, I'm not really leaving much behind. I'm not leaving much behind. And one of my things is, if you see my recent videos, I've had grievances actually with people who I thought were friends, and them just not really being there in times where you would have liked friends to be there, and then ultimately just disappearing. And I think that it sort of serves like twofold, because like I said, if I don't have anyone to talk to, I'll speak to the void, whether that be a group of people laughing, or whether that be my Snapchat, or whether it be my I don't do that anymore. Instagram story, Snapchat, I don't do that as much really at all anymore. Or it be the YouTube. But I can also acknowledge that me saying things, especially if I'm not watching how I say things or what I say, and I allow myself to get riled up, I can say something that will make this person especially not want to talk to me anymore. And that's happened before, and I had a talk with a friend about that, and I thought that all that was like settled, but I have a feeling he still held on to it. He said like, oh, it was all cool, but I had a feeling he still held on to a lot of that, because that day apparently he said something about me behind my back, and I still haven't got to find out what it is, and I don't think I ever will. But he said something about me behind my back, and that's really like the whole thing. It's like, if there's an issue, I try to my main thing is, if I have an issue, my issue has been saying it the wrong way, and then it turning into something bigger, right? I try to communicate this thing, and if I feel like when I communicate it with you, it's talking to a brick wall, or I feel like I'm talking to TNT and something's gonna blow up, I'll just keep it in, because I don't want to make it a problem in the moment. But then me keeping it in makes it worse. So then when it does come out, I'm like the TNT now, right? So then it comes out on video, I say something stupid, or I say it the wrong way. But I will eventually try to say something to you before I do go that route, ultimately. And I just feel that if I'm going to afford you the respect of, look, I do say something. I will say something. Even if I do suppress it so that there's no issues, eventually I do say something, because I'm like, I can't keep having this. I would like the same respect if you have issues with me. You come to me, but like, hey man, I don't really appreciate. Now I can't really know, but I do know that there has to be an issue if this friend stops talking to me completely. And I'm reaching out, I'm like, hey, when you trying to hang out? And then there's nothing. And then there's another one is, hey, when you trying to hang out? And it's nothing. And these two are connected to one another. I'm like, okay, there has to be something going on. And if there is, you guys could say something. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if you guys are cowards or I don't know what it is. If you're afraid to say something, or if you're just not trying to, you feel like it's going to be some big fight or something. I don't know what it is. Or maybe you just felt the resentment and you guys were just like, okay, fuck this guy. But if you felt that, you could have said something, right? You could have said something. And, now it's at a point where, this actually has affected me. It has affected me. Like, I'm not as socialized anymore, and I got to get back into it. And that's why I am excited to get back to being socialized, being around people, being in the Army. It's going to be like being in school again and shit in certain ways. But I'm excited to get socialized again. I lost the socialization, and then you don't have the people like I had one of my friends that's like, damn, man, you usually during these times for like big UFC events, you would be throwing like some sort of party. That's supposed to be your thing. Da, 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 da. I'm like, well, I ain't really got anybody to like invite, you know? I ain't really got anyone to invite. I'll say this. The two friends that I'm thinking of, but I'm gonna just say the names just because, I mean, I'm not some big famous guy. There's not gonna be any consequences or something. But, you know, they may or may not watch this. It's Jalen and Mix. These were two people that Mix, our dynamic was, we were convinced that we were nemesis or rivals. He was never my nemesis or rival in any, you know, like I never looked at this guy like the Vegeta to my Goku or something. I never looked at him like that, really. You know, just when we play games, Jalen would sort of build this narrative that we were rivals and we, you know what I mean? So we kind of played along to it. But I mean, I kind of realized it got it, like, that sort of made, I'm not saying that Jalen made it weird, but because that was the reality, it kind of made it weird. Like, I think I suggested like hanging out with him one day. He was like, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. And I was just like, okay, you know. But I still invited this guy into my home numerous times, you know, and made sure that he was well fed and, you know, he was basically a friend. You know, he was basically like a friend. It was different levels, but, you know, and he disappeared around the time that me and Jalen initially had a falling out. And I know I saw him before my fight last year, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what happened. You know, I said to him, I don't know what happened while we, like, stopped talking, man, but, you know, I don't know why that happened, but I hope everything's good with you. And he kind of made, like, this face, like, it was a weird face. Like, I don't know. It was a weird, I don't know what the face meant, but he made a weird sort of face, like, I'm like, okay, all right, I don't, like, whatever, you know, and that was that. And in terms of Jalen, that really spurred from, I think, him getting with this one girl and him putting all of his time and attention into her. And it almost felt, from my position, it seemed like he's really clinging on to this girl, because before then, it was a long time before he had a girlfriend. And he was really clinging on to this girl, and like he wants to get married with this girl. I mean, it's like every time I'm trying to kick it with him, oh, no, I'm going to be with my girl. No, I'm going to be with my girl. No, I'm going to be with my girl. I'm like, damn, nigga, like, you don't realize how you look right now doing this? I'm like, damn, like, and it's not like I'm hitting him up every day. I'm hitting him up like every 2 weeks about hanging out. That's enough time to be like, damn, you know, and then it got to a point where he was like, hey, you're just going to have to, you know how you like, you set it up a month ahead where you gather everybody together and throw the party? You're just going to have to do that with me. I'm like, no. You know, I was kind of like, fuck you. Like, who do you think you are? Like, nigga, we're supposed to be homies. It shouldn't have to be all that just for this one fucking girl. For this one girl, I got to go and schedule an appointment a month ahead with you? Who do you think you are? And what the fuck do you think this is? Like, we're talking about me scheduling everyone together because they have conflicting lives and things might happen and people might forget. So I'm organizing a bunch of people. You're one guy. You're not goddamn Denzel Washington. You're not that fucking busy. You're not Leonardo. You know, so it did upset me. And I was just kind of like, nah, like that I wasn't messing with that, right? But even then, you know, eventually we did reconnect last year in July. It was 4th of July, you know, and we talked, and I thought everything was good, and we were talking about like reconnecting and hanging out again, and then he just radio silence, stopped responding completely, you know, like it was nothing. And the thing with Christian is, I was sending him, like, you know, I make beats and stuff. I would send him my beats, and he was replying at one point, but then eventually nothing. He just stopped replying completely. He would even pick up my phone calls, but then eventually he stopped, nothing completely, and it all happened around the same time. So I'm starting to feel like there's this anti-Jordan sort of sentiment going on behind the scenes. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And then I'm hearing like they're hanging out at this one dude, Wade's place. Now, Wade is someone I did stop speaking to. And that's because he didn't come to my dad's funeral. I tested him. And I was like, well, I want to see what's more important for this guy. Being there for your friend in times where he his literal dad just died. Or you thinking something might happen because the funeral is in a bad neighborhood. And he didn't come because I told him, I was like, yeah, man, my dad's funeral at this time, blah, blah, but I don't know if you want to come because it's in a bad neighborhood. I did that to someone else too, and they still came. But when it came to him, I wanted to see what he was really made of, because I always had this suspicion he was kind of like a coward, and when it really came down to it, he would just abandon you because he was just afraid. And he was like, oh yeah, no, I'll just go to the repass then. And I was like, okay, this is the last time I'm gonna talk to you. And even then, I didn't go off on him. I didn't say nothing. I just kept it to myself. Because, like, I'm not trying to fight with you during, like, I'm grieving my dad. I'm not trying to fight with you. I kept it to myself. And then he never reached out to me. I didn't reach out to him. He never reached out to me either. So it was kind of like, okay, well, you was kind of feeling like fuck me anyways. Because if I didn't say nothing and you didn't reach out, and then you were kind of like, oh, okay, well, that is what it is. Like, fuck you then you were clearly feeling some type of way underneath anyways. You didn't reach out and go, hey, man, how are you going? Like, you know, I know your dad died. How are you doing? How's things going? My dad died. I don't speak to you. For all you know, I could just be depressed and shut down and not talking to you. Not talking in general, right? But you don't think to reach out as a friend. You never did. Anyway, so you showed your true colors to me anyways. And I'm like, you weren't there for me as a friend, you know. And then around this, a little bit after this, that Jalen disappeared, and then Jalen disappeared. Chris. So all these people that I thought were friends just gone. They whisked away, right? I don't even know if does that make sense? Whisked away, but they went away. You know what I mean? They just sort of slowly transitioned, like being away, and it's like, damn, like y'all ain't there for me. Yo, Jalen had this dog that died, and my dog died. I thought he'd be there, and he wasn't there for me. I was like, damn, like these niggas don't have my back at all. Like even a check on me, a check in on me. How you doing? How's everything going? I didn't get none of that. And instead, I actually got the complete opposite, and they like just deuces, bye. And I was really resentful. It made me a very bitter person. And with time, I went from this like more free and goofy person, and I didn't really care what anyone thought. Like I'd just be myself. I'd do something. It's starting to come back a little bit more now for, you know, I think for certain reasons, but it went away. Obviously, you know, you're not as socialized, so you're not as comfortable being around people and, you know, doing those things, but also it made me question myself. I'm having all these thoughts. I'm like, well, was I doing something that was like so offensive, so bad to these people that, you know, like they would just do that? But maybe I just chose the wrong kinds of people. I mean, these are people who, for lack of better terms, were lames. And when I say that, you guys gotta understand, like, in black schools, there's no cool kids. There's no, like, we don't have the jocks. You know what I mean? Like, we're all black, so a lot of us are athletic anyway, so there's no jocks. You know, with white people, there's a lot of disparity. Like, you'll have the guys who are, like, really good at baseball, the guys that are good at basketball, and then everyone, like, some dudes would just be like, oh, dude, you are a mess physically. Like, genetically, God did not look out for you physically. With black people, it's like, damn, I mean, we got, like, 20 people that can do backflips and run up walls and shit just because. There's nigga with ADHD that could do that shit that's black, like, just cuz. I know all types of people that's fast as hell, that can play basketball decently, you know. So we don't have any jocks. Everyone's kind of like, not everyone, there's a lot of people that are just kind of charismatic and kind of funny, that are well socialized, right? So it's not really like we have the cool kids. There are people who obviously are higher in a hierarchy, because hierarchy exists regardless, but we don't look at them as the cool kids. It's just kind of like, are you a lame or are you not? And then there may be a spectrum within not being a lame, that maybe you got a little bit more clout or whatever, but there's no cool kids, right? We don't have like, oh, she's one of the cheerleaders. Obviously we have cheerleaders, but she's the cheerleader and she's the, no, you know, like, it's not a thing. But if you a lame, you a lame. And being a lame is basically like being like the socially inept, like kind of awkward person. You're kind of like just quiet, you're at the back, nobody really fucks with you. The vibe people get from you is kind of like, I don't really want to kick it with this nigga. I was kind of like at the bottom of not being a lame, like the bottom-ish middle. I was like if it was like middle class, I was lower middle class, right? Like I wasn't like lower class, but I was like lower middle class. Like I was right there just getting by, because I didn't really want to kick it with people outside of school. I probably could have, but you know, I was still funny. People still found me funny. I was funny to all different types of people. I could be funny to the lames. I could be funny to the cool kids. I could socialize with the lames, quote unquote. But I could socialize, like I could socialize with everyone when I wanted to, but then I had my time where I was just like, nah, I don't really want to kick it with the cool kids and do the shit that they do, because you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to kick it with these people, or I was just kind of like that. Now, I won't lie, when I was at Rich Central in Southland, I was, those were my high schools for my freshman to junior year, because I was new. Nobody really knew me, so I couldn't get acclimated to these people. I was there for 1 year for Southland and 2 years for Britt Central, so I didn't get acclimated to anybody really. But my second year at Britt Central, I started getting a little bit more. I started coming up, but then I left, so it didn't really matter, right? But anyways, they were kind of at the, they're lames, unfortunately, and it just is what it is. I'm not trying to say that to insult them, but it's just like, objectively speaking, they're lames. And I think when you have people who are at the bottom, the way that they'll sort of operate and act, they may be operating with insecurities and things that you're not thinking of in that moment, like you're not really thinking of, and maybe I was making them feel a certain way, or maybe I did things that offended them, and I didn't know, or maybe that's just how they operate, it's just how they are, and they're not very direct people, or I don't know. I don't know. Because they didn't really give me anything. They didn't really give me anything. I couldn't really get it's kind of like the friend, like whenever someone commits suicide, nobody really knows, because the person doesn't really convey, if anything, they mask that they're having these thoughts. Maybe they're ashamed of it, I don't know, but they mask it, and then they kill themselves. Everybody's like, what the fuck, right? It's kind of like that, where I think like they masked however they felt about me or whatever was going on, but they never said it. And then it's just like, when they're gone, they're just poof, they don't snapped away, But I do think that there's an issue, because like I said, the Wade fellow, they were kicking it. There were times when they were kicking it with him, but then I couldn't even manage to get them to hang out with me one-on-one. But I'm like, dude, you're over here kicking it with this nigga at his place, but I'm trying to link with you, and every time it's no, I can't do it. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's going on with that? And you starting to treat me like I'm some fucking peon to you. You're gonna have to schedule a month ahead with me. What? What are you talking about? Like, what's going on? That's what I mean. That when people live without, they tend to be less morally good. You know what I mean? Because you grow up without. When you have abundance, you don't need, right? If you grow up with abundance in a good set of parents, you don't have, you know what I mean? Like you're not gonna be greedy, you're not gonna be needy, so you might be more willing to share and give with others. But when you don't have anything, yeah, it's mine. You're like Schmeagol, it makes you less. I'm not gonna say it's gonna inherently make you that, but people tend to be less morally good when they're poor and without, right? This is what it is from what I've noticed. So it's not just poor, it's socially being without. Nigga don't get that. That's like, whenever you can kind of look at a dude and be like, oh, that nigga's a pedophile, just based on how he presents. Because it's like, he probably doesn't have a lot of friends. He doesn't socialize. He definitely don't get girls. He's socially awkward. And then you can extrapolate from there, whether he's looking at shit on his phone all the time, and then it's like, yeah, he eventually got to a point to where he saw some really dark shit. Or it's like, well, he's going to go after what's easiest for him, and getting a grown woman ain't going to be that easy for him. We know he ain't getting no grown women. So you can kind of like tell, not necessarily, but there are guys, Alexa, stop. You can look at a guy and be like, oh, I'm not surprised. Like, if you see a pedo, you'll be like, I'm not surprised. He looked like one. That's just from what I noticed. Y'all might think it's crazy, but yeah. But anyways, yeah. So now I had a lot of resentment for not necessarily Wade. I mean, Wade was what it was, right? So I didn't build more resentment because of this. Like, it's not his fault they're hanging out with him. But with them, I'm like, well, y'all are blowing me off, no Diddy, to kick it with this nigga. That's what it felt like. Even though I know it's not the case, but it's like, well, y'all kicking it with him, but then I can't even get a text back from you niggas. I can't even get a no, my bad from you niggas a lot of the times. And even then, that's still not good, because it's like, it's always, no, I can't. But you just kicked it with this nigga last month. You just kicked him 2 months ago. For over the past 2 months, I've been trying to kick it with you. 2 months ago, you kicked it with him? What the fuck? Like, well, But now I'm just coming to accept I picked the wrong group of people that I thought were friends. And you lose perspective when you are not very socialized, when you're not talking to people, when you're spending your time at home. You know, we grow up and we're around people for 6-8 hours a day. And you got to learn how you navigate around people. But if you're willing to pay attention, you also learn people and how they operate and how they think well enough. And then when you're stripped away from that and you strip yourself and you don't socialize with people very much and you don't have a social circle, you forget. And it used to be intuitive when I would come across someone like, oh, this nigga's a lame, that's why he acts like that. Oh, this bitch is like this, that's why she acts like that. When I would understand that, I wouldn't take it personally. And I wouldn't overthink it so much. There would be things I would overthink, but there would be a lot more, especially comparatively back then versus now, that I could understand and be like, okay, I'm not going to take this personally just because, yeah, it's whatever. Like they're this kind of person. Of course they think that. Or of course that happened. But now, because I haven't been very socialized, I've been overthinking so much, and really it's just, there are things that probably that are my fault, but I can't know because they didn't communicate it to me. So why stress it? Why stress it? But there's also the aspect where it's like, well, that's just them. That's just how they are. Of course they're like that. Of course they're gonna operate like that. Just is what it is. And I'm not gonna take it super personally, man. You know, not anymore. I'm not gonna be upset about it. I mean, if they want to reach out and say something, that's cool. And I'll be happy to talk to them. But I'm also not gonna take it super personally because that's just how they are. And I should be more adept at recognizing these things. And I was that way even like at certain MMA gyms. But then I had come to the realization, well, it's not even come to the realization, I always knew this, but I forgot how to make that connection intuitively that, look, a lot of these MMA gyms have a lot of people who are nerdy, lames too, growing up, that maybe got picked on, that people made fun of, that were at the bottom of the totem pole. Or in some way, shape, or form, like the MMA people aren't the most socialized people. And what's helping me make these connections, I'm at a boxing gym now, and it's in the fucking hood, and it's a lot of black people that are a lot more well socialized. And they're like the people I grew up hanging around and talking to. And I'm seeing how they respond to me, and I'm not getting that kind of stuff. I'm like the funny guy in there, and I'm this and that, and you know, it's cool, I'm kicking. But in there, like, it's easy to make conversation with people in the boxing gym. In the MMA gym, they're like, you try to make a joke, they're like, and I'm thinking like, damn, did I just get unfunny? Like, dude, I've been thinking for years, damn near my whole adulthood, I'm like, I've been getting less and less funny. These are just awkward ass people. And those people have always been around me growing up but I just wouldn't talk to them because I'm like, nigga, you don't laugh at my jokes. I don't want to kick it with you. But these have just been the people that I've been, I don't want to say forced to be around, but that I put myself around for years. And I just assume they're just like everyone else in every way. And they're not. And I think that for you guys, if you're having that issue, maybe you're just not around the crowd that appreciates you the way that your friends did when you were growing up. And maybe you just gotta move crowds, be around a different kind of crowd, you know? It is what it is. But there's a lot more that I could say that I kind of do want to say, but this is 30 minutes, so I'm gonna end it right here. I don't take anything personally anymore. I did, but it is what it is. I'm 27, I'm pushing 30, I'm a fucking unk. I feel like I'm looking old, but I think it's just my hair is, yeah, and maybe my eyes, I don't know. But it is what it is, man. You know, I'm moving on. I'm going to try to make something of myself. I want to have kids. I don't know if I want to get married. Marriage is so outdated as a principle. Like, I mean, as a principle, as an institution, it's super outdated. So many things are outdated, so I don't know if I want to do it like that. But I know I want to have kids. I know I want to have a family. I know I want all that good stuff. I want to do so much, and I can't be harboring all this ill will towards people who they're probably not even thinking about me. They're probably, if these niggas that wasn't thinking about me when my dad died, they ain't thinking about me now. So, yeah. But I would say let me know what you think down in the comments below, but it won't matter really. It's just maybe it's my last video, maybe I'll make another one. I don't know. We will find out. But yeah, I'm out. Peace.